Hello, welcome back to 3D Drawing for Model Railway. Today's episode I'm looking to continue with the RM74 and move on to looking to do the bogey area. I'm looking at the canvas, obviously we've got two of them. They're pretty much identical looking at the photos, except for the steps going up here. They're mounted on the bogey on the front one, and on the rear bogey they're actually mounted to the bodywork in a slightly different position. I'm initially going to just draw the bogies separately, and then we'll look at what we can do about the footsteps afterwards. My initial thoughts is mounting them both on the bogies, so they're able to pivot and the bogey give us a reasonable range of motion. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw on the wheel sets themselves, and then that gives us some sort of idea of what space we've got to be able to draw the bogey. So I don't think we're going to be able to draw it fully to scale because it's quite fine, so it's going to need to be a little bit bulkier than what it should be, but we can work through that as we go. Okay, so let's start by creating a new component. We're going to call this bogey. Try that, rename that bogey, and make sure obviously your radio button's checked on there. Okay, so I'm now going to bring up the mid-plane that we've got from the top level, and I'm going to do an offset plane from that, which would be from where the inside of an N-gauge wheel set would be. So that's going to give us essentially the back-to-back. So measuring the inside measurement on these wheel sets is 7.3 millimeters. So I'm going to offset that by 7.3 divided by 2. See which way that's brought. Okay, so that's come towards us, which is absolutely fine. We can then turn off the mid-plane construction plane. We know they're going to then be working on this one that we've just created, which is, let's say, 7.3 millimeters divided by 2 inwards. We can draw onto that plane again, obviously to make sure you've got that correct radar button checked for the bogey. I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to try and find the midpoint of this wheel set as best as I can. Something somewhere like that. I'm going to drag that out to the outside diameter of the flanges on a 6.1 millimeter wheel set, which brings us to 7.33 millimeters. So if we put that at 7.35 millimeters, that gives us roughly the largest diameter of the wheel set that we're going to be using. And I'm just going to extrude that, the thickness of a wheel, which is 2.06 millimeters. Okay, now obviously we can see that's clashing at the top here, so we will have to dig a bit out of the chassis at the top. And that will probably be the same on the other end, but we can work through that a little bit later on once we start to get these bogies drawn up. Okay, so if we look at the drawing for the bogey, it's a completely different shape to the one that we're going to be using from the real model. So yeah, we're going to have to sort of ignore this drawing a little bit and just go with shapes and dimensions that we think look about right based on what we're looking at. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a copy of this body. No, that's it. Move copy, click the create copy box, drag this over so that it sort of line up. 12.5 millimeters. So we know that between two wheel sets it's going to be 12.5 millimeter difference. And now we know that how long our bogey needs to be when we draw it. Okay, so to start to draw the bogey itself, I'm going to create an offset plane from the front of the wheel set, and I'm just going to offset that. It's going to come towards us. I'm thinking maybe 3/4 millimeter. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that, and we can draw the front of the bogey on that point. Create a sketch on there, and I'm going to project on both of the wheel sets initially. I'm going to draw a line from the midpoint across. I'm going to do the measurement there, turn it into construction line. The measurement of that is 12.5 millimeters, is what I was expecting. And then I'm going to create another line on the midpoint. It's going to go vertically. Again, I'm going to have that as a construction. So that what I'm creating here is sort of where the midpoint of the bogey is, so that we can then mirror the things across rather than just having it as having to draw the whole thing and trying to get it identical both sides. Okay, so looking at the photograph here, we've got the bogey starts just below the underframe clearly, and then the bottom of the bogey is below where the midpoint is of the axle. So I'm going to actually create a sketch. I'm probably not far off that line actually. I'm going to come down that midpoint, find the center point of the bogey here. I'm actually going to come down I'm thinking maybe 4.2 millimeters. Let's define the height from the top of the underframe. Let's put it at 0.5 pretty much. I'm thinking, do I want a bit more clearance than that? Let's go for 0.6. Just give us a bit more clearance from the top of the underframe there. And then what we've got distance wise, 1.8 millimeters. It's probably not far off, to be honest. Looking at that, we're probably not far off of a foot difference between top and bottom there. Okay, and then the bogey looks like it comes horizontal along the top until in between these two posts here. See that midpoint is already between them two posts, looking at that. So that clearly the drawing and this picture don't match up. Where's the front of the wheel? Yeah, this whole lot needs to shift across, I think. What we can do is we can draw the bogey, I think, and then we'll go from having drawn the bogey to moving into the correct position. Okay, so let's draw a line. I'm going to pick the top point there. I'm going to bring it across, keeping it horizontal. 3.4 millimeters. And where the axle box is, it comes down to the same height as that. So, what do we need for an axle box? Well, the pinpoint on an N-gauge axle, the axle on an N-gauge wagon, is 1.6 millimeters. The pinpoint's obviously smaller than that. So if we create a circle on the outside here, I'm going to go for 1.8 millimeters initially. And we can draw a line from there to a tangent point on the circle. So you can see how it's given the tangent constraint, which is this one here. Getting that tangent constraint in there. Let's just measure that for you. So it's 3.6 and a little bit. Okay, and then what we're looking at the box, so it comes slightly off of there, up and down. So again, this is going to be a weird, awkward shape. So we're going to come. Is it going to be actually? No, it's not even parallel to that one, so that's fine. I'm going to come up slightly. That's quite like 0.75. 0.75 millimeters coming up. I'll go 36 degrees. That's 36 degrees off of horizontal. The line at the bottom needs to come to the same position as this one. So if we get that vertical point there, so you've got a dotted line, and then we can come up to that. I don't know if that's too long. Let's add the constraint in there. So let's go vertically horizontal. So that point to that point. I'm going to take this, take that measurement out there, and I'm just going to alter this dimension here to maybe 3 millimeters. I'm just going to try and flatten that out a little bit. Try 2.8. That's not too far off of this line here, so I'm pretty happy with that actually. This inside part has got a curve on it, and obviously these are curved on the top and bottom. I'm not too worried about these top ones, but we can put a small fillet in. 0.5 fillet on that bottom one, on the radius on this bottom. Boom, fillet on the top here. 1.5, just rounds off the top there. That warning is because of the dimension length here. The same 1.5 on the bottom. It just rounds those out, I think, quite nicely. Okay, that gives us the basic shape. So if we now extrude these, if we come, I'm going to go 1.5 millimeters. It's still behind the sole bar though, which is fine. And that, because of the width being 1.5, I don't know if that's going to give us the strength that we're going to want. Let's try a little bit more. Let's go 1.75. It's still behind the underframe here, so we'll go with that. We'll draw the detail on the front, and then if we need to reduce the width, we can do so afterwards. Just concerned of how far it's going to be sticking out. Theoretically, it's still inside engage on the bodywork by quite some way, so I think that thickness is going to give us the strength that we're going to need, because we're obviously going to be chunking out this hole here, and these bits on the end of the wheels are going to be quite flimsy. My plan for this bit that goes around the outside is I'm going to draw this to whatever length we need to get beyond the end of the wheel, so that we can actually put a bar that goes all the way across, which will give us that extra tensile strength across those, so that they don't just snap out on the wheels there. Okay, so let's do a little bit of detail on this for the moment. I'm going to create a circle on here, and we've got it at 1.8. I'm just going to go a little bit bigger, just because if you look at the photo, although it comes down tangent at the top here, it does sort of stick up slightly. So I'm just going to go 1. Actually, I'm going to go 2 millimeters, just give us that little bit extra on the top. Select the two parts of the profile, and we're going to extrude that by 0.3 millimeters might be enough. Okay, and then we've got this hole to dig in here. So the top and bottom lines are tangent to the parallel to the outer edges. So if we press sketch on there, draw a line parallel to the line here. And that point is going to go, drag this a little bit longer. That position there. That one's fine there. I'm going to draw a line from there upwards. I'm going to put a constraint to parallel that line to that line. Drag that. Okay, thank you. Drag that beyond this one because there is an angle on there, and then that line is going to close off that triangle like that. I want to just make that gap there a little bit thinner. Just moving these around to try and get something that looks reasonable. Don't forget that obviously once we do these fillets on these corners, it's going to take out quite a chunk there. Let's go for 0.5 on that fillet. Do something similar at the top here. I think we're going to probably be on 0.5 on all of them. Although this one actually looks a little bit steeper. So we're in for 0.25 I think on the bottom radius and 0.5 on the top two. Okay, so let's just drag these around a little bit to get these to look roughly where I want them. So let's give you some constraints so you know what you're working with. Now we've got basic shapes. We've got parallel lines there and there. And then if we put dimensions in, we're going to dimension that. So we're going to go for 0.6 millimeters in that line there. And between these two, we'll do the same so that we've got similar sort of dimensions on those. So that's now constrained all of this lot. And what we can then do is constrain, if we go for this point here to the bottom of the bogey there, just give ourselves a measurement across there. So for 2.85, and then if we go from the same similar point at the top to that top point, we'll go 2.75. That will then dimension all of that. We can extrude that hole through to the inside of the bogey, cut that hole out. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is draw the bit that comes out around the front of the bogey. So looking at the photos, it comes down sort of parallel line to this one, and we've got a bar going across which will help the bogey to stop it from spreading, keep the wheel sets in a bit better. So we're going to create a sketch on plane 2, which is where we drew the bogey. And I'm going to just spin that slightly so that I can project on the inside of this circle where the axle box is. Let's turn that back around, there's a line, we draw a line that comes down like that. I'm going to parallel that line to the top half of the bogey. And if we dimension from there to there, let's go for 0.85. Do a dimension on the length. Let's go for 4.3 millimeters, I think. We'll have a look at that in a minute, but we'll start with that. Draw a line 90 degrees to that one, come down 1 millimeters, and then we'll draw a line from there, snap it back into the bottom of the axle box there, and dimension 0.5 on there, gives us a nice angle. Okay, extrude that to the front of the bogey, so 1.75 millimeters. And then if we spin this round, we can draw a sketch on the inside surface. And that can come down perpendicular to this top line. Drag that along. What we got? I want more than that. I want a good millimeter there. So I'm just going to go back into the original sketch. Going underneath that 4.5 millimeters, I think. If I come back into the one we just drawn, go 1.1 millimeter. See, we've got a bit of space here. If we need to, we can file some off. We shouldn't have to, but 1.1 should give us a nice strong section there. We'll just extrude that to the mid plane, so 6.46, and join. I'd say that the purpose of that beam was to stop the bogey spreading on these parts because they're going to be quite flimsy. So looking at this, we've got a recessed area, so we can create a sketch on there. Let's turn that mid plane back off. A sketch on the front surface here, and use the offset tool. And I don't want the chain selection because I want that top surface, that one, and the bottom surface. I'm going to come in, so maybe 0.3, and I need to close off this. Then I can extrude that by doing minus 0.5. It'll give us the appearance of that being recessed here. Okay, that's good. Just looking at this, thinking whether I want to make this a little bit thick on this end. I think I'll probably do. So I'm just going to go back and edit that sketch. Redefine. So we've got that as a millimeter. I'll sketch that one out. That one. Redefine that. Maybe 1.2. I know it's not a lot, but I think it just spreads it open a little bit more, gives us a little bit more strength in that area. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. I think I'm going to end this video at this point as well, because I think I've gone on for about 25 minutes just getting this basic shape here. I think the next one will come back and we'll draw some more of the details on there. And then I think we should be able to get the bogey finished within the next episode. So hopefully you're able to follow along okay with that. If you've got any problems, then send us a message and I can see what I can do for you. Thanks for watching.